Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. So obviously, title, Weird and Wonderful Words. The thing about this is another one of those pseudo-reference type books. I really enjoy those. Because you get to sort of learn stuff and be entertained, and sometimes you even find something that will either be useful or, you know, stick with you anyways. Um, so the foreword by one Simon Winchester involves begins with an intriguing little story where he talks about how some years ago, at a time when I wrote a weekly column in a large daily London newspaper and thus vaingloriously fancied that I had some influence over popular taste, I invented a word. It was, I thought, a rather pretty sounding word, though I confess not an overly attractive creation to see. It was the word Drimmins, and it was the name that I conjured up on a train chuffing through the Cotswolds while I looked out on fields of unsullied winter white, to signify the trail of grey water that is invariably left behind on the floor when someone in gumboots comes into a warm kitchen from the snowy outside world. Um, and he goes on to talk about his little neologism and how it never actually caught on, despite how badly he wanted it to. Um, in which he is basically talking about, in which he uses as a lead-in to discussing this book, which is basically words, real words, or in some cases compound words, that one that you don't normally stumble across in your day-to-day life, that you don't normally have a use for, but sound interesting or describe interesting concepts, or hopefully both. Now, I will be the first to admit, of course, that I had actually run across words like blasiloquent before reading this book. That is, speaking with a lisp or a stammer, from Latin words meaning lisping, stammering, and speaking, as many words in English do, because most words in English are in fact compounds that were created out of words from other languages. But, that's how language works and how it evolves. The thing about this um, is that some of these things, some of these words are actually words that you'll find yourself saying, I might actually be able to use that word, it's just nobody would know what I was talking about. Um, but that's neither here nor there. This book is also, as you can see on this cover, illustrated by one Roz Chast. And they're not bad cartoons. If you are wondering, the concept of allogotrophy is excessive nutrition to any one part of the body resulting in deformity. Like many unnerving and disturbing medical words, this one seems to be more a theory of disease than an actual condition. It comes from Greek roots meaning unreasonable nourishment. So, for anyone who's reading this who doesn't actually recognize it, that's Popeye, the guy who eats the spinach and then suddenly he's super strong. We all know that's Popeye. It's, obvious. And so a lot of these words are of Latin and Greek origin. They're proper words. They're OED, Oxford English Dictionary words. Cruentation is an excellent word if you are somebody who writes a lot of fan fiction based in police procedurals, or maybe Sherlock fan fiction, or you're planning to write a police procedural yourself, because, as you can see on the screen here, the term for the oozing of blood, which occasionally occurs when a cut is made into a dead body, formerly it was used to mean the supposed bleeding from wounds that would happen when the body of a murdered person was in the presence of the murderer, coming from the Latin word meaning stained with blood. So yeah, you might actually find that useful if you're, writing stuff about dead people. So there you go. Keep it in mind. Actually, this book contains within it one of my all-time favorite words, for no other reason than the sheer existence of the concept. I do not have a cartoon for it, but this particular one, as I said, one of my personal favorites is erinaceous, an adjective meaning like a hedgehog. It is mostly used in a zoological sense, but cries out for figurative use to describe people with prickly or bristly manners, or, as I would say, people with silly haircuts. Um, so there's you can see the variability in these. The fact that anybody has bothered to create a word to mean like unto a hedgehog makes one wonder at what point somebody needed that, particularly since it's used predominantly in a zoological sense, which suggests there are a lot of people in the biological sciences who have at some point needed to say a thing was like a hedgehog. A hippopotamist, that is a person who is an expert in dissecting horses. I particularly like the part here where they point out the bendy things. Apparently, front legs don't have bendy things. But there are also a fair number of words in here which do not, in fact, which are of, for example, Scottish origin. Because for some reason we have decided that the Scots are the great, are some of the greatest arbiters of English, I suppose. We have one here which they have not, in fact, specified, although I would suspect it's probably Celtic in some way or other, is Cualtach, the first person you meet after leaving your house on some special occasion, also the first person entering a house on New Year's Day, often called a first foot. The New Year's Cualtach for luck is supposed to be a dark-haired man. A red-headed or female Cualtach is unlucky. Other things to bring luck into the house on New Year's Day include serving black-eyed peas, having the Cualtach bring shortbread and whiskey. Sounds fine for any day of the year, and sweeping all the garbage in the house out through the front door before midnight on New Year's Eve, so that any of the misfortune of the past year is gone, not to return. So, as always, I of course have not actually bothered to bookmark things. So, as I have set out here to pick something that is from, I don't know, Scotland, I obviously can't find it because I've gone to the effort of mentioning it and now I can't find things. Here we go. The situtory, a summer house or gazebo, also an out-of-the-way corner to sit with your partner during a dance. The word means a place to sit out and comes from sit plus ut, the Scots pronunciation of out, and the noun ending "ery." Snollygoster, a dishonest politician, especially a shrewd or calculating one. A connection has been proposed between this word and Snallygaster, a mythical monster of Maryland, invented to frighten freed slaves. However, the first evidence for Snallygaster follows Snollygoster by about 100 years, making a connection in this direction at least unlikely. So they have, of course, brought up German words, or things like this Liripoop here, etymology unknown, which is very, very intriguing because, of course, that means that somebody should try to find the etymology of the tale of a graduate's hood hung down, and to have the tail wrapped around the head like a bandage when the hood is on. But this also brings up German words, in this case, Torschlusspanik. Torschlusspanik, a German word, one of those concepts like Schadenfreude or Sprachgefühl, in that English too lazy to come up with an Anglo-Saxon word just appropriates the German for, meaning a sense of panic in middle age brought on by the feeling that life is passing you by. It literally means shut door panic, or in other words, the German word for a midlife crisis. So, anolatry, the act of worshipping donkeys, who'd have thunk? Well, no, I would have thunk, because frankly, the world is kind of like the internet in that, if somebody can imagine it, somebody's done it. And the technical definition, a very rare word meaning the worship of donkeys or asses, is taken from a Greek word meaning ass, and another word based on this root is centaur, a term from Greek mythology that refers to a centaur with the body of an ass rather than that of a horse. I did not know until this book that such a thing even existed, that somebody had made up centaurs that were donkeys instead of, horses. And in between each chapter, because of course this is an alphabetical order with A's and B's and C's, in between each of these you have little articles, such as, well, actually I'm going to skip that one. That might not be seen as family friendly. If you want to know what I'm talking about, read F in this book and then get back to me. So, irregular and incredible illnesses. Many words for diseases are certainly weird, but it takes a morbid turn of mind to find them wonderful. It's not clear to lay blame for the weirdnesses of medical words. Difficult Greek and Latin roots are always good suspects, as is the natural desire of the healer to obfuscate so as to seem to be the holder of arcane knowledge, and thus the only one with a cure. But then this particular thing leaps into an alphabetical list of strange words that describe various kinds of illnesses. Alastrim, a contagious disease that resembles smallpox, or Ascarius, infestation of the gastrointestinal canal. You've got Bagassosy, sounds like a schoolyard taunt, but it has nothing to do with too big trousers. It's a disease of the lungs from inhaling the dust of sugarcane waste. And then there's Byssinosis, a chronic disease of the lungs caused by inhalation of fine textile particles. And then there is saltatoric spasms. If when set on your feet you begin to leap. You may repeat the same word or phrase in a meaningless fashion, or verbigorate. So the thing is, there's a lot in this book, and a lot of it is, of course, funny and silly and entertaining, but at the same time, it's worth looking at just to consider something, which is the very important concept that sometimes passes people by, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but it's that English is the language in the world that has the largest vocabulary. Russian comes in second. Anything else, whatever is third, comes in a distant third. We Anglophones have more words to say things than anyone else. Now, admittedly, a lot of that is loan words. That is, words we stole from other languages because that language conveniently described a concept, and we have taken that word and made it our own because why not? We don't have a word in English to describe the salty sweet taste of bacon, so we're going to steal it from Japanese and call it umami. The thing is, though, we have more words than any other language. We have more concepts than any other language, and all of these things, they make the language rich, they make it complex, they allow for shades of meaning, and they allow for shades of meaning that sometimes will get lost in translation. And so, looking at this book isn't just about, haha, words are funny. It's about reminding yourself what it is that language is and how complex and amazing and fantastic it is. And I've used up my 15 minutes, so that's everything, and I'll see you all next week.